Welcome to the video, guys. As you might remember, the other day I covered Piers Karen Morgan taking down Owen Jones for his commitment to cancel culture and how he thinks it is such a great thing, which, let's be honest, is not really a surprise to us, is it? We all know this is the way Owen Jones thinks. It's not just him, it's 99% of the media, anyone he would call a friend, or in his case he would actually call him a comrade, but that's not really important for this video. Anyway, following on from Piers Karen Morgan taking him down, Andrew Neil has decided to do the same, and on Twitter, much like Piers Morgan did. Now, the reason Andrew Neil has decided to call him out is because it would appear Owen Jones is crying into his soy latte about not being able to cancel people and how many people who have been criticised by the left can still make money, which obviously he really doesn't like because it shows they do not have the power they wish they had, which we all know would be to throw anyone who disagrees with them into the gulag. Well, the Express picked up on Andrew Neil destroying Owen Jones on Twitter and decided to cover it, so we will take a quick look at that. Now, before we get into that, the daily live streams have moved over to Twitch, where I just chill out, talk to the chat, play a few games and have a laugh. If you want to come and join me over there, the link is down in the video description. But now, let's get back to Owen Jones and the Express headline, which reads, Andrew Neil taunts Owen Jones for failure to cancel his BBC career. Andrew Neil has lashed out at left-wing commentator Owen Jones on Twitter, accusing him of trying to cancel his BBC career. Earlier this week, Mr. Jones tweeted, "Cancel culture is becoming meaningless after naming numerous celebrities are still being paid despite criticism." Cancel culture is a term which has been growing in popularity in recent months, with public figures facing widespread criticism often termed as being cancelled across social media. And no, it hasn't been growing in popularity in recent months, it's just that the media are starting to pay attention to it now when they weren't bothering before because they were actively taking part in doing it to normal working class people. Obviously, now it's happening to celebrities, they don't like it, the media are picking up on it, and maybe they're getting worried, because even if you are a rabid left-wing loser, you could still be cancelled for even the smallest thing. It's not like we haven't seen it in recent months and years. Owen Jones's comments sparked furious backlash from Mr. Neil. Mr. Jones tweeted, "Woody Allen continues to make films. Scarlett Johansson is still paid millions to act. Lawrence Fox's last TV series was released 2 months ago. Jenna Marbles' YouTube channel remains. Jimmy Kimmel is still paid $15 million a year to present. Cancel culture is becoming meaningless." Well, it is when you're going after celebrities like that who get paid enough money to not really care and can just ignore it. And of course, there is also the cases where you lot scream and shout about absolutely nothing, which is most of the time, but some of these things are so insignificant that you couldn't cancel anyone for them, no matter how hard you try. Despite claiming cancel culture was now meaningless, the Guardian journalist was criticised for previously trying to cancel certain people. Calling him a journalist is being generous if you ask me, even though I think journalists are lower than a snake's belly for the most part. That to me is still too good a title to give to Owen Jones here. Darren Grimes, a prominent Brexit campaigner, tweeted a screenshot of a tweet by Mr. Jones where he called for Oxford University to fire the Deputy Director of External Affairs and International Strategy. Mr. Grimes wrote, "Owen Jones saying cancel culture doesn't exist, having spent years now seeking the cancellation of many careers of those he happens to disagree with, is truly a fine thing." Yeah, Darren, I would have to say, given you sold out David Starkey the other day, you're not really in a place to talk about this at the moment. Dr. David Starkey was cancelled by Cambridge University because you refused to defend him and instead threw him under the bus, claiming you were new to interviewing and all that nonsense, when you should have said you knew exactly what he meant, and he meant absolutely nothing by it, which is obvious to anyone with half a brain cell. As I said at the time, he was speaking with passion about the people who are trying to erase our history, and you could have said that. If you had used half a brain cell, you would have come to that conclusion and tweeted that out, no matter how much the mob come after you, because remember, what happens on Twitter is not what people think in real life. This is something people always need to remember. BBC Politics live host Mr. Neil responded to Mr. Grimes' tweet and claimed he had tried but failed to cancel my BBC career several times. Mr. Jones then furiously posted a series of tweets hitting back at the BBC host, claiming Mr. Neil is hiding behind cancel culture. What the actual fuck is this idiot on about? He wrote, "This is a straightforward lie from Andrew Neil. Have I robustly criticised him? Yes, for hiring the Holocaust denier David Irving and for chairing a magazine which publishes racism and praises Nazis. I have never ever called for him to be sacked." Mr. Jones continued, "I'm sure Andrew Neil didn't like being criticised for hiring a Holocaust denier or for chairing a magazine which turns out racism and apology for Nazis. But in a democratic society, I have the right to challenge him on that." Which I've got to say is certainly a new one on me, that this is what Andrew Neil does. I'm not really buying it. Yet he defends himself by hiding behind cancel culture. I'm not really sure how Andrew Neil is hiding behind cancel culture, but okay, let's continue. This all kicked off after I wrote a column about Andrew Neil in 2018, the point of which was not to cancel him, but rather underline the point that the claim the BBC has a left-wing bias is ludicrous, which remains the case today. Is he going out of his fucking mind? Of course, the BBC has a massive liberal left-wing bias. It is beyond doubt at this point. Since Mr. Neil's accusations, Mr. Jones has posted a series of tweets saying Mr. Neil is unable to provide any evidence to suggest he tried to cancel his BBC career. He wrote, "Andrew Neil isn't producing any evidence that I tried to cancel his BBC career because there isn't any." Mr. Jones reiterated previous points about challenging Mr. Neil on hiring an alleged Holocaust denier and being the chairman of The Spectator. Yep, such a racist organisation, I'm sure you would all agree. Earlier this week, a number of celebrities penned a letter calling for the term cancel culture to be ended. A letter from 150 public figures that I've covered before. We're not going to bother going through. No one actually cares. It's amazing when it happens to them. They all piss and whine about it. But when it's happening to normal people like you and me, they don't give 7 shades of shit. Well, I do think it's funny that Owen Jones come out so vehemently in defence of himself because he's being called out by Andrew Neil, who has a big following, showing just how salty he gets when what he tries to do is done back to him. How often has Owen Jones used his platform either at The Guardian or on Twitter to attack people and try and get them cancelled, which I am willing to bet is what he's aiming for when he pulls these little stunts, and I'm sure you would all agree with that. It's not just him, it's most of these political activists, usually on the left, and especially if they happen to be Labour Party activists or part of the Momentum shitweasels that we laughed at last year when they got absolutely annihilated at the ballot box. You have to remember, Owen Jones is still slightly salty about that, so the fact that his cancel culture isn't working and celebrities are pushing back against it must be really pissing him off, because it shows snivelling shitweasels like him, Ash Sakara and the rest of them are losing any power that they had, which is the power to cancel people's careers, at least celebrities anyway. You heard him moaning about all the people that are still getting paid despite his hatred of them. Which I do have to say, while I'm no fan of the people he's talking about, I'm very happy to see that Owen Jones is not getting his own way and these people are still making money. I expect they never did anything wrong anyway, but what does that really matter? Owen Jones should really watch out, because one day cancel culture might come back and bite him in the arse. You never actually know. But as always, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel, and my other social media links are down in the video description if you want to come and support me on Twitter, BitChute, and a variety of other platforms, including my second YouTube channel. As I said, all links are down in the video description.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.